afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar on migrant women in STEM. This is Harmony Alliance's Harmony Empowers series webinar, where we feature inspirational women talking about leadership, professional development, and their careers in different fields. For those of you who are familiar with it and have attended previous sessions, it has been going on for quite a while. We've had webinars on leadership and belonging, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy, and a range of topics. So this is a topic that has been really important to us, and the chair of Harmony Alliance, Nadol Neon, has been committed to increasing representation and also engagement with women in STEM and women wanting to pursue careers in STEM. So that is why we're having this webinar today. Without further ado, I will hand over to Hannah, who will be moderating today's session. She's a member of Harmony Alliance's Young Women's Advisory Group, and she will introduce the panelists to you all. Thank you.
Hello all, my name is Hannah, and before we begin, I would like to start with an acknowledgement of country. We respectfully acknowledge the past and present traditional owners of this land on which we are standing on, the Noongar Minang people, in my case from Albany. It is a privilege to be standing on Noongar country. We also ask for their guidance when working here today to support the health and well-being of all people in this country. Before I begin, I shall start by introducing myself. As Sana said, I am Hannah from the Harmony Alliance. I am part of the Young Women's Group. Part of the Harmony Alliance, the idea of Harmony Alliance is to increase migrants and refugees women participation in policies and decision-making in the country. And I won't reiterate what Sana said, but I'll just go ahead and go into the introductions. Sorry, I have them in front of me. So first, we have Dr. Zita Wahid. Dr. Zita, would you like to begin by introducing yourself?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm Sidra from, originally I'm from Pakistan, and I was born and raised in one of the regional area in Pakistan, where I finished my secondary high schooling, and then I moved to one of the metropolitan city of Pakistan, where I did my bachelor's and master's. And in 2015, I was offered a PhD position in Australia at University of Tasmania in chemical sciences, where I worked on 3D printing technologies for developing new materials for sensors and microfluidic devices. So I stayed there in Tasmania for around 4 years, where I finished my PhD. The whole journey of my PhD was challenging, but at the same time, it was really rewarding. I had an opportunity to explore a new culture, establishing new knowledge as well, and I had also an opportunity to move around the world for decimating my research findings, not in Australia, but also in Europe and back in Asia and Pakistan.
Lovely meeting you, and thank you for being with us, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say. Dr. Yanni, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Yanni, and I'm currently a research scientist at the University of Queensland. I'm a structural biologist, so basically I'm interested in the three-dimensional structures of proteins. So like proteins are like little machines in our body. And so by understanding their structures, we understand how they work. I'm also interested in mini proteins from venomous animals. So these mini proteins have the potential of developing into drugs that target some really devastating diseases. So a little bit about myself, I suppose. I'm originally from Hong Kong, and I came to Australia when I was 17 years old. So I studied a bit of high school in Melbourne, and I got into Monash University for my undergraduate degree in medicinal chemistry. So I guess the idea back then was for me to just come here to study. And I once thought, I'll just go back to Hong Kong after uni. I also never thought that I would be a scientist. I mean, I've always loved science as a kid, but as an occupation, like, doing research was not really, I didn't even know that was an option. But in my honors year, I had this experience of doing some actual research in the lab, and I was really stunned to know that I could actually do that as a job. Like, I can just answer questions and understand life for, as a job. So I continue on to do a PhD degree, and I have been working as a research officer since my graduation in 2013. And of course, now, like, Australia is my home, so I can't see myself going back anymore, but that's a bit of me.
All right, lovely to meet you. Dr. Hamideh, can you please introduce yourself as well to the, Oh, you're on mute.
Yes, every time. Thank you, Hannah, for introducing. I'm Hamideh Anjomshoa. I'm an applied research scientist at IBM Research Australia, and also Enterprise Research Fellow at University of Melbourne. So I have two hats at the moment. My background is mathematics. So I'm a mathematician. I did my PhD, my master and bachelor, everything in maths, mainly in applied mathematics. And in mathematics, I think to excite everyone, if you want to plan anything in your life, you have lots of restriction, lots of limitation as well you need to consider. That's exactly is what we call it optimization and planning. So this is my expertise. I help, for example, during my PhD, I help mining, how to design the mine, how to schedule or plan the trucks, which the same things during IBM, I help surgeons to plan their surgeries. And also at university, it's plan their tutors. This is a complicated mathematics background, but it's very fun to see the application side. Talking about myself, I'm originally from Iran, and from one of the small town called Kerman. That's where I born. I did my bachelor there, and then I joined United Nations in Tehran for 4 years. And after that, I came to Australia to do study similar to Yanni. I just came here to study, to have an experience. I didn't think I will stay. There we go. After 16 years, I'm here, going through the journey. I would love to hear everyone's story now. Thank you.
Thank you. I think part of this is probably just welcoming everyone to the webinar. Now that you know our panelists, obviously we're all here because we understand the importance of having migrant and refugee women in STEM. And so my question to the panelists is to understand from your perspective how the struggles that you went through to get to where you were as a migrant or refugee woman in STEM. Was it a difficult journey, or was it something that was easily attainable? Because it's talking to younger girls, especially from migrant and refugee backgrounds, like you mentioned, Dr. Hamideh, it's sometimes outside, and Dr. Yanni as well, it's sometimes out of the realm of impossibility. It's something that we are sort of struck, we ended up being cornered into humanity. So I wanted to know what was the inspiration in you taking a STEM direction? Dr. Yanni, you want to go? You want to ask a question?
So it was a very complicated question. Perhaps I'll start with a bit of challenges that I might have seen, like along my way. So I suppose most of us as a migrant, we did have language barrier and cultural differences. So language barrier is a little bit more easy to recognize. So, when you don't understand conversations, when you don't understand teachers in class, then I realized that. But then, while my English was improving, I realized that, I don't know, I'm still not fitting in with the local Aussies very well. Is it because my language, or is it because I I don't understand enough Australian slangs, you know, like I was doubting about like all this practical stuff. But then like slowly I realized that it's actually the culture. So me and my friends, we did not, you know, obviously we didn't grow up eating the same food, watching the same TV. So there would be a lot of basic values or things that are different between us, and that caused a bit of a like communication problems. And I suppose, no, I'm not saying that like we should all, you know, adapt, give up our culture and adapt to other people's culture. We should always be proud of what we are, but especially in science, I find that like if I didn't try and open up and, you know, be open-mindedly understand and try and understand the other people's culture, I really found myself getting a little stuck. So in science, I mean, we scientists do a lot of communications that, like, you know, we share information. So that's the whole thing that we do. And there was a time when I like, you know, like I'm not getting all these little bits and like a little tricks. So we don't publish everything in books. You know, sometimes we talk over things over a coffee or beer, you know, like actual communication. And if you don't open up and do it, I feel that I was missing out. And so that was one thing that I think was helping me a lot, since I have decided that, you know, science is my profession. But like choosing that as a career has always been something that that I have decided is, I guess, like what I meant just now is how to proceed like to like a better level of science. Does it answer your question? Sorry.
It does. And would all our other panelists agree as well? Is that something, what was your inspiration? Is it something that you've always wanted to do, like Dr. Yanni said, you always wanted to?
Yes, that's interesting to hear, Yanni, from you that, yeah, you know, loving the STEM sometimes start way before we, migrate here, I guess, but to continue pursuing it was different story. Mm-hmm. The same challenge, I can, agree with you that having, the language barrier, different language that, we have to live with it when we move here with different accent, plus the culture, sometimes they mix together. It's not only language and culture. For example, I remember, that's what I told my manager at some point. I thought, when I would love to receive feedback, if you start with something positive and then you say but and negative after that, this is me. When you start with positive, I got excited and I don't listen to the rest of but because I think, yeah, everything was great. And it took a while for me to realize, here they're doing other way around. In Iran, they tell you if it's something okay, they say, yeah, that's great. If it's something wrong, they tell you, hey, this is not the way to do. But also, this is good thing. So yeah, you're right. Culture and language are mixed together. It takes a while. We learn it as well. But yeah, but I guess having them no support, isolated from the whole family in here, that was another big challenge for most of us. We feel we left our root in our country and then we are here by ourselves. We're excited to learn new journey with new people and we open our hearts to them. But it was challenging. It took a while that we all integrated, I guess, in this society.
Absolutely. And Cedra as well, would you have the same sentiments?
Yeah, I will agree with both the panelists. Like cultural shock is one of the major thing which we all migrants faced, and particularly we leave our home and come in a new country where we have to live by our own, totally by our own self, and we don't have that much a family support which usually we have back in our own country. We have to find new friends, and making a new friends require learning their language and their accent as well. I would like to share, like, when I came to Australia, and it was really hard for me to understand, like, how to greet, like, good. Usually Australian used to greet in a good day, and it was so typical in Australian culture. Like, it was really hard for me to understand, and at times I have to ask my supervisor, could you please spell that for me so that I can understand it? And he was very generous. He always spelled that thing for me. So these are the tiny things, but we have, like, it becomes huge when you leave everything back at your home. And secondly, other things, like, I'm from Pakistan, where we have a bit of a protected family system, where we are not living so independently. We are not used to of doing things independently, but over there in Australia, we have to do to manage our own things independently. And I still remember my supervisor once asked me, what is the major barrier you are facing in Australia? And I told him, I have to go for a grocery for my home on every weekend, and in back my home country, my father used to do it. It was not my job. So that was the major thing. I was like, I struggled for 6 months to overcome this.
And while I still have you there, we have spoken about the challenges and the barriers, but what I want to know is what pushed you forward into pursuing STEM, even through the difficulties of language barriers and all the other difficulties that you faced as you were proceeding to becoming a STEM professional.
Well, I think I always want to excel in my studies. Mm-hmm. My parents always supported me. Like, I left my hometown at the age of 18 and I moved to other city. And I always wanted to do something which become like exemplify for the young girls coming behind me. I have also seen my mother struggling in her life. She was a professional woman, and the struggles she faced and the way she did a lot of things for her kids. I want to make her proud. That was one inspiring thing, that I want to make her feel like whatever the struggles she faced in her life, she should be proud of that. So that was one of the inspiring thing I did. And I think, did I answer your question?
Well, you absolutely did. You absolutely did. I think the idea of the question was just, obviously we have challenges, but we also have things that drive us. And STEM being the way that it is, you would need something quite strong to push you in, especially in a field where there are so little women, and even a smaller group of migrant and refugee women. You'd need something that would push you quite hard. So I would also open this question up to other panelists. What was it that pushed you? What was the push forwards that put you in this direction? Dr. Hamideh, would you like to answer the question as well?
Sure, Hannah. That's very interesting to hear from Sidra as well. It seems STEM is something that we enjoy doing it. It's kind of at the bottom of our heart. I mean, I didn't think that, is it for me or not? I was just enjoying maths. And then I was just doing it day and day. I came to do my master here at Curtin University. And then after that, I applied to see what's next for, to pursue my study. And then I received scholarship for PhD from Adelaide. And I always keep enjoying it. It wasn't a kind of question. And talking about STEM, I mean, around the women, back in Iran, it was interesting. Mathematics was something that most women wanted to do because it was way easier for them to find job. Definitely being a teacher, that was the first thing was on their list. And being a mother, it was easy to be a teacher, rather than going to a company or mining company work. So that was the first things the classes that I joined, the majority of them were women than men, because yeah, the application were mainly men. By the way, I have a cousin who was the only boy in the mathematics class in bachelor.
Wow.
However, he married to one of them. He was at least smart enough to choose one wife for himself, and they're lovely married after, for 15 years. So here in Australia, I was shocked to see, I was tutoring, lecturing, and I had only one or two girls in my class, and there were the rest boys. And I was wondering, oh, why is it different here? So was a bit different than where I used to. Mathematics is for girls first, rather than boys.
That is
And
interesting.
here is a bit different.
That is fascinating. Yeah, Doctor, I just realized that Dr. Devika just joined us at the webinar, but I will just let Dr. Yanni answer the question before I get back. Devika.
No, that's okay. It was a very interesting point. Yeah, I guess from my culture, mathematics is for boys as well. So it's quite striking to know that like it's got more girls doing maths than the boys. But yeah, I agree with you. Like the driving force I'm assuming for many of us to start in STEM would be something because of our like actual internal passion. So we studied at school, and then we were just more interested in science, like as compared to perhaps art. Well, I can only speak for myself for that. I'm not really an artist, but so science is something that I always enjoy. But I have to admit that there was a time that I felt a bit more burnt out. So so I was I'm just doing this. Well, I felt that I was doing it for money, which is like a really bad sign for a career. But then I had my kid. so she's 3 now, and she's a girl. And like ever since I gave birth to a girl, like I it's like a little bit of enlightening moment for me. So I feel that no, I can't be a role model for her if I just do a job for money, right? And it's not like I don't like science. It's just like I was a bit burnt out. So I think she actually inspired me to do a little bit more, and especially do a little bit more in science communication, or women in STEM, that sort of area, like doing good science as well as communicating science properly. And like I mean that to me is a driving force.
Absolutely. Oh, that's good to know. And I think this is fascinating how we have a very varied, we've got varied reasons and aspirations, the inspirations for going into STEM. And it's quite fascinating just hearing all, the experiences being drawn out, and how we are also different, but also the same, and we're striving towards the same thing. Welcome, Dr. Devika, to the webinar. I just would allow you to introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you. First of all, please accept my apologies, everyone, for being delayed. I work at Macquarie University, and we are initiating a culture workshop, which is to enhance the culture of the university. And this means what does the university stand for? How can we incorporate people from different countries, and how can we respect and value everyone's tradition, but at the same time have an overarching culture? So I got held up with that, and I had to run halfway across the university, which I did in heels, the pleasures of being a girl in a dress. So I sprinted down the university. So I'm extremely sorry for being late. Yeah, so I'm very glad to be a part of this panel, and it's such a great initiative by Harmony Alliance. A little bit about myself. I'm Devika Kamath. I was born in a small town in the south of India. My journey is like all these other great women I'm sharing the screen with. Yes, I have a story, and my story essentially starts when I was about 12 years old. I was very fond of stars simply because of my grandfather. So my grandfather used to be a sailor, and today when we want to go anywhere, we just use a GPS. But back in the day, navigation was done using the night sky. So a crucial role that somebody played was the role of my grandfather, and he kind of, taught me how to navigate using the stars. And when most kids grew up with Barbie dolls and cars, I grew up with a sextant, a telescope, and star charts. So I kind of, befriended the universe when I was a really small girl. And then I had a question. I was once drinking a glass of water, and I asked my mom, I said, well, who made this water? And then she said, oh, it's just water. And I said, yeah, but if you have to make, like a cake, you need ingredients. But what happens to water? Who makes it? And then we learned at that age that, okay, it has 2 molecules of hydrogen and 1 molecule of oxygen, and these are chemical elements. And then I had the question, well, where do these elements come from? Like, who makes these elements? So fine, hydrogen and oxygen makes water, but who makes hydrogen and oxygen? And then I was told that they come from the cosmos, from the universe. So it was that curiosity for how are the elements in the universe made. So I really thank my grandfather for, sowing the seed of curiosity. And I thank my parents for giving me the right answer. Normally when kids ask a parent a question, they say, oh, that's magic, or, oh, that's from Santa Claus. But, my parents went to the effort of saying that's 2 molecules of hydrogen and 1 molecule of oxygen, Devika. So it was really those kind of questions and that kind of support that got me onto this journey of becoming an astrophysicist. But for those of you listening, I didn't know how to spell astrophysicist when I was 12 years old. And in fact, I didn't even think I would make it. Like, I just had this dream, and it was essentially just holding on to this dream and stumbling a little bit in the dark. And eventually, I'm just very grateful to be able to live my dream and pass it on to a few other people. So in short, that's sort of my journey. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here. And while I still have you, obviously this is more targeted towards the younger women who are thinking of joining STEM, integrating into STEM. My question to you is, how have you managed to perhaps keep focused? Obviously STEM is it's quite an engaging space. I myself have a degree in public health, a master's degree in public health. I'm not a doctor yet, but watch out, watch the space. But I do understand how quite consuming education and studies can be, and especially with the expectations of being a migrant and a refugee woman from a refugee and migrant background. There's so many other things that we have to do. So I want to ask, in your journey of becoming a STEM professional, what was it that kept you focused? What was it? How did you integrate all parts of your life, being a woman from a refugee and migrant background, as well as pursuing this very scientific road pathway?
Yeah. Look, that's a very important question, and I'm sad that I missed the answers from all the others here in the webinar. But in terms of, for my personal journey, yes, it hasn't been easy. I think, as most of us can relate, culturally, there are many expectations that are set upon us. For example, in India, it's quite the norm to have a family quite young, get married, settle down. So, and I come from a very conservative society where it was very typical for women to become doctors or teachers, eventually get married and have a family, and that was considered to be a successful life. But I came along and I said, well, I would like to try a chance of having both, but I first need time. I mean, if you think about it, starting a family, getting a PhD, settling down as a lecturer, these are very, very big things, and they cannot sometimes happen, parallelly. And I think the way I did it was to first really discover my passion. I mean, today, if I do astrophysics, it's simply because I love every bit of it. I'm not the most highly paid person in my neighborhood, but you know, the satisfaction I get by doing my science and then by teaching, by mentoring students, that gratification means a lot to me. But of course, it's challenging because, you know, you need to win the trust of your parents or your society. And I think most of the time it's because they're concerned. They're worried because they're not used to something that you're doing. So I think it was about kind of trying to get their trust. And the way I did it, I'm not saying it's the best way to do it. The way I did it was, I remember telling my parents, look, just give me 3 years after my undergrad. And I did my undergrad and my master's in India. I mean, unfortunately or fortunately, I did not have the support of my professors because they preferred that I was going into teaching or becoming a medical professional, because that was kind of a tested path. The path I was going to take was very new, and they thought that I'd be wasting my life because, you know, they've never heard of an astrophysicist before. But I kind of stayed true to my core, and I kind of trusted myself. I failed a lot. I had a lot of setbacks and a lot of disappointments. In fact, I did not get the first PhD scholarship I applied for. I got things very later on. So I think the qualities that I would suggest is resilience, which basically means coming back with the same enthusiasm even after you fail. Like just trusting your passion. You know, you want to be, you have a dream, whether it's astrophysics or whether it's mathematics or cybersecurity, whatever it may be, kind of blocking out the comments that you can't do it and just taking in the comments that tell you that, look, you can do it, and trusting yourself, because a lot of the times you will be walking in the dark. I think all of us have done that. We did not have paths saying, here's the door, here's the scholarship, here's the exam. We did not have that. You know, we knocked a lot of doors. Out of 50 doors you knock, maybe only 3 of them open. And then you go into those 3 of them with as much vigor as you possibly can. So resilience, you know, no matter how much you fail, come back to it. And mentoring. I think mentoring is a very, very important part of anyone's career. It's so important to find a mentor who you can trust. That mentor does not have to be in your same academic line. They don't have to be doing exactly what you're doing, but they can be anyone in a university or someone you can relate to, because at this stage of our careers, Yanni, Sidra, and Hamideh, we have networks. So if I have a student or I have a person in a, you know, from a migrant background who wants to be, for example, a paleontologist, I might not have that expertise myself, but I definitely have a network. So, you know, if you can build a trust with a mentor who's able to spend their time for you, that's very important. So you need support. Doing this on your own is possible, but doing it with support just makes the journey so much more easier and so much more. And you know, today's world, as you see, there's so many initiatives for young students to reach out to successful STEM personals. And I think this is something that a lot of us, even the 4 of us on the screen here, strive for, you know, to take on proteges and mentor them. So yeah, so support is important. And from your own side, I would say resilience. And look, age does not matter. In fact, this is the last thing I'd say. When I was talking to Sana initially, I told her about an Indian researcher who did her entire education in India. And then she came to Australia because she was married. She had 2 kids. And I happened to bump into her and I said, well, why don't you pick up on your research? And she said, oh, but it's been so long ago and I don't think I'm good enough. And I said, well, let me look at you through my eyes. And when I looked at her CV, I thought she was fantastic. So, you know, sometimes we tend to judge ourselves very harshly. But when the other person looks at you, they realize your true potential. And at the moment, she has a postdoctoral fellowship at a university in Melbourne. So I think it's never too late to start. So yeah. I'm happy.
Thank you. That was very insightful. And I just wanted to ask Dr. Hamideh as well, would you also agree to the same sentiments? Can migrant and refugee women have it all in STEM? She might be frozen.
Yeah.
Dr. Yanni, would you like to answer the question?
Sorry. Yeah, sorry, can you repeat the question?
Now the question was, as we're talking with Dr. Devika, was that, inquiring about whether women, migrant and refugee women can have it all, because we have a different life path. We have to include the social aspects of our lives, and with STEM, how does that all marry together? So what would your experience be in that? How was your path in getting to the STEM, including who you are as a migrant woman in Australia?
Yeah, I mean, overall, we have our additional challenges. So I mean, like for even for the locals, like for women here, getting in STEM and having a really good career in STEM is already not easy, I suppose. Like we're all it's not the most friendly. Let's put it this way. Like it's not the most friendly field for women. Like so Devika and everyone has already pointed out a couple of challenges. But then on top of that, I think for migrant women, we have family expectation. Like that's something really important. I think for Asian families, we have this sort of set mindset of like a successful career has to be this or that, like medical doctor, engineers, lawyers, all these like standard professions. So what you're a chemist, what do you do? Like, do you get paid well? Like that's what the parents ask, right? So we have all these like additional stuff, and then on top of that, what we mentioned before, culture difference and language barrier, and also so it's not easy, but I agree with Devika that if we follow our heart and if you have a passion, science is a very rewarding career, because I can't see many jobs that can give you the job satisfaction that we can ever get. Like so it's not just satisfying our curiosity. Many of our research actually leads to something that can eventually help people, even though we don't all get a Nobel Prize, let's be honest. But every bit of contribution counts. And so if you think about it this way, it's a very rewarding career. So yeah, I think we should just follow our heart and go ahead if you have enthusiasm in STEM.
Very interesting. Dr. Sridhar, is there anything you'd like to?
Yes, I can relate totally with Dr. Devika, like the way she explained the cultural expectations for women living in South Asian countries. And particularly in Asia, we can all relate with each other. And I would say, like, we migrant women, we are living two lives, and we have dual expectations. One expectation is back from your home country, where the definitions of successful woman is totally different. The definition of successful woman is just get married and have kids, look after your kids and husband. This is the definition of a successful woman, and you can't pursue your career that openly if you are fulfilling your domestic responsibility, then you will be considered as a successful woman. In my case, when I talk with my parents about that I want to pursue my career in abroad for a PhD, their first thing is just get married. This is your first priority. And I got married, and I got a scholarship offer from Australia. And after 1 month, my husband is also in academia. So he had different liabilities at that time, and we decided that he will fulfill his liabilities within 3 or 4 months, and later on he will join me in Australia. And I left my country, but unfortunately he couldn't join me in Australia due to some visas issue. and I spent 4 years in a long distance relationship. So we women, like not only the migrant women, I have met some local women who are suffering from two body problems where they can't find position in a same city or same institution. But if you are a migrant, this situation become more difficult to address. So these were the challenges. This is the other challenge which we migrant women suffered. But again, how do we come out of these challenges? Just to have a support network. I totally agree with Devika. Like, find the people who can understand your aims, and they can listen to you. In my case, I must say that I have a very supportive network of my parents, my husband, who they allow me to stay in Australia for 4 years to complete my PhD. And again, we all like suffer from the failures. And the thing is, how you come out of those unexpected failures. This is what make us different from others. If you are learning from your failures, seeing what have you not done in the past and correcting yourself and coming up with more strength, making yourself a better person, better in skills and better in strength, you will definitely slowly and definitely reach to your target. And in the way, you will definitely face some critical critics as well. And criticism, like, take this criticism as a tool which helps you to improve yourself. One person can't be an all-rounder. There will be some weaknesses within yourself. You have to sort out what the weakness you are and how you can overcome it. With the passage of time, you will definitely overcome it. Like in my case, I still remember I dropped email to around 100 professors to get a scholarship, and only 4 or 5 professors turn up. And only I got my application was only a single application was successful. So the thing is, keep yourself, keep trying, keep yourself improving, maintain the resilience, and surround yourself with the people who talk about progress, who talk about the positivity, and ultimately, slowly and gradually, you will keep forwarding, and you will achieve your target.
I think Sidra has made a very important point about, she mentioned a few times slowly. And I think that is a very important point for, it's not just the migrant women or refugee women. It's even, anybody trying in a science career. There is no immediate gratification in science. Achieving a stable, successful scientific career takes a long time. And it takes long time, but it also takes very consistent effort. So essentially, you're putting the same amount of effort over a period of time, and you build on your successes and failures. So, as Sidra's mentioned, and, as I also said before, sometimes you knock maybe several doors and only few of them open, but the key is to go into every door as if it is the first door you've knocked. Because sometimes what happens is people try a lot of applications or opportunities and they get a bit deflated. And the next time they try something, they try with a vigor that is 10% less. But the point is, sometimes you just got to come back with the same tempo, and that's key, because suddenly the door opens and you want to be the best version of yourself, because as much as it's supportive and it's a growing network, I mean, STEM is a competitive network. Of course, it's challenging. And we have to acknowledge the fact that it is competitive as much as you get the gratification out of it. So we need to be prepared for the reality that STEM requires out of, you know, whether it's a young boy or a young girl, irrespective. So something I always tell my students is, it doesn't matter if you fail. What matters is you try again, but not just try again with the same enthusiasm. That's really, really important. And be patient. I think all of us in this webinar would agree with me that we are not here today in a matter of 1 year or 2 years. For some of us, it's taken 10 years. For some of us, it's taken, say, 7 or 20. So it takes time, but, you know, it's about holding on consistently, if that sort of resonates with others.
No, it definitely does. And I think a lot of the things that you're saying are key themes in life in general. You know, it talks about resilience and going on and keep going and keep trying and putting in the effort, as well as acknowledging the space that you hold in terms of, you know, acknowledging that it is a competitive field.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Dr. Hamideh, before you left, before your computer froze, your internet issues, I don't know. I just wanted to ask you, I asked you and I posed the question that how do you personally deal with the dichotomy of being a migrant, woman from a migrant background, and also being in the STEM field?
Yeah, sorry for being disconnected. It's technology, as we always know, out of our hand. Yeah, I mean, like it's very exciting to hear everyone's story and see, you know, people coming, you know, like Sidra coming from a Pakistan background with a bit conservative, similar to Iran, that I can completely relate to that as well, you know, to see the challenges. Or from Devika, who was thinking, you know, in India, in the culture is to get married in a young, let me get my laptop not to update, please. Ah, okay, let me put it this way because it doesn't let me to say no. And the same things. I personally, I mean, I'm the one that I did everything at the same time. When I started my master degree, when I migrated, I didn't migrate, I came as an international student. My daughter was 4 months old. So, and when I started my PhD, after 6 months, my son was born. So I was pretty active in terms of getting education and also raising kids. I was all on top of each other's. That was hell of painful process. But I don't know. I mean, now I'm just thinking of 10 years ago when I graduated I did my PhD. I was thinking, how did I do it? I have no clue. But I was thinking it was doable. It wasn't something that when you ask, can we find a role model? I was too busy to find any role model. I was just rolling. I was excited with maths. I love my kids, and I was just juggling things around. That's how it happened, eventually happened. But I want to raise two things it's not only migrant women in STEM. In general, as a woman, I don't know if you're aware of the imposter syndrome. This is something I believe the girls, everyone, especially the young generation, they need to know. As a woman, we always doubt about ourselves, our ability. We always, whenever we achieve, or if someone, recognize or give us credit, we always believe, oh, no, I'm not that good enough.
Or
I'm here just by luck. Yeah, I'm just here by luck. I'm in this position just by luck. And this is the imposter syndrome that we need to be aware, and we need to share it with our mentees, everyone. And if we know there is such a thing, as a woman, we always question ourselves. But as a male, I'm leading a team of 12 researchers. And I can clearly see this. Sometimes the women in my team, they are extremely great, but they are not feeling that confident. But the other male colleague, colleague, for example, is 200 confident. Well, while I know, oh my God, no, I can't. This could not be true. So my point is, everyone should be aware of this imposter syndrome among the women. This is common, so we need to know and how to avoid this negative thought in our mind, how we can shut it and continue. And the second is about the mentorship. I mean, everyone raised this one here, and I guess having the mentor, multiple mentor, local mentor or international mentor, mentor for life. We might have some family member in our life that sometimes we can discuss some of our personal issue in our family with them, or we can share from the work perspective, we can talk to mentor. They are incredibly, their time is incredibly valuable. You know, after several years, you realize, wow, I'm so pleased that I listened, you know, I heard that conversation the other time. I'll give you an example. Nearly, I think 7, 8 years, yeah, 6, 7 years ago, I'll receive an offer, another kind of offer. They open a position for Australia, Asia, Australia and Singapore, that kind of region, Japan, for a kind of job, which needs, they say 70% travel. When I share, and when I saw that one, when they share it with me, the team manager from France, I got so excited, and I was thinking, wow, I wasn't expecting that coming. And then quickly I called with my mentor, who at that time she was in Zurich. So the first thing she told me, she said, this is too early for me to leave from research to that industry. That's the first thing, too early. The second, she mentioned, my kids were about end of primary school. My kids are now in high school, teenagers. Maybe that life balance is the key. Just focusing on only the, a career, sometimes it may hurt the work-life family balance or personal things that we would like to achieve. Having the balance is the key. And I'm so pleased that she gave me that warning, because I can see the other guy who is doing it, how hard it is.
Oh.
Yeah, so two things, mentorship and imposter syndrome information is something that I would like, I guess everyone should be aware of.
Excellent.
Can I
Thank you
just
so much for that. Oh, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Hamideh. I just, sometimes I get the impression that, when people see successful women in STEM, they automatically expect us to juggle it all, Oh, so you have a successful family, you have a successful career. But I just want to put it out there that sometimes, some people by choice might say, well, it's not prerogative for me to start my family now. And for some people, they might say, well, I'll first start my family and then do my research, or like Hamideh, I'll do both of them together, or like in my case, I'll first focus on my research and then, see what comes along. And I think it's just important for parents or guardians of those young students to be able to, I know it's very scary for a parent to see their child just go off into a wild dream and not settle down. But I think, we have shown, it's not just me or the three of them on here in this webinar today. There's so many examples where women have broken from tradition a little bit and, gone and established their own paths. And I think what I'm trying to say is there is no one path. What works for me need not work for Hamideh or Sidra or Yanni, and vice versa. So I think it's important to understand that the path to success, or the path to even establishing yourself in the field of STEM, is not singular. It's quite diverse, and it really depends on what you choose for yourself. For me, I don't necessarily think that every woman in STEM has to have a family and has to have work. It's her choice. She can, of course, have both, but if she doesn't want to have both and she only wants to have, say, one, I feel like we should be able to accept that and, acknowledge that. And success should not be it should not be measured as the ability of a woman to balance both. It's not success, you know, it's independent. Sure, if they want to do it, then it's wonderful and we need to support them. But if they choose not to, then I feel it's only fair if we still support them, because there are many women who choose to first establish themselves in their career and then go for family. And I personally don't see anything wrong with that. And sometimes I get asked the question, you know, what would you, I mean, should I get married and settle down first, or should I first, you know, go and find a career? And I had that dilemma when I was young, you know, when I was choosing, just fresh out of university. But I think I just decided to follow my heart. I said, look, I've got a scholarship, I will go. It was very difficult for my parents, and I guess Sidra can relate to this, you know, long distance relationships and so on. They're a part of, that's the story of many of our lives. But unfortunately, there's no recipe. So for those of the listeners hoping for us to give you a secret recipe, there is no secret recipe. Each of us have an individual path. And the point is then iterating on everything that, you know, the four of us have said, keeping in mind those things.
Oh, thank you. That is very important. I think it goes into the next question that I have for you all on strategies. So obviously we live in a practical world, and the question is, what are the strategies that you have used to be where you are at the moment, to be, you know, in the STEM fields? What are the practicalities? And I think we've already touched on a lot of them, but you know, conversations like what is resilience? What does resilience look like in your life, and how is that presented? How is mentorship? What does that look like in your day-to-day life? So I think the question is, what are the strategies that you have used in practicality? Dr. Yanni, would you like to go?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like a strategy. I mean, myself, I think I'm still going through the learning curve, like even myself at my stage of my career. I mean, I don't know if I have overcome the challenges yet, but I suppose my strategy would be, the first thing first, work very hard. So we have to do creditable research. So only when I believe that like doing truthful, you know, hard work is the foundation of a healthy, fruitful career. So that's the basic. Then to get to the next level, I mentioned that before. So there's a bit of a realization to myself. I think to get to the next level, we all have to strengthen our communication skills. Communication with peers, you know, with my proposal assessors, so people who may fund me, as well as the public. So, you know, doing science, public needs to and deserves to know what we do. And so good communication skills is important. So when we talk to everyone, and I mean, good communications is based on mutual respect and understanding. And so I'm still learning how to do that effectively. But I think it's really important. So I also mentioned that a bit earlier, that I think I mean, like we all come from a very different culture, but effective communication only comes with mutual understanding to each other. So I would encourage all the migrant women to make a bit of an effort to try and understand, like, you know, you don't have to have their culture, but you should try and understand them and see from their shoes, and then you'll find that, like, you guys can talk a lot better, and that is very important. Well, I guess it's not just in STEM, in any sort of career, but yeah, that's my little thing.
Oh, that's good. Dr. Hamideh, would you also have any strategies? You spoke about having young children who are now teenagers. Are there any particular strategies that you have used?
Yes, I mean, as many of you mentioned before, I'm always ready to learn. Yeah, to learn multiple things, and it doesn't end. the amount of time, maybe, I mean, in the morning, I read about, for example, teenage, how to parent positively a teenager, and also looking at the journal that is published on the day. You have no idea how much I'm balancing these things in order to learn because this is new area, yeah, from different aspects, from STEM, from mathematics background. This is new. I need to know what's the new technology coming out, what kind of software exists, and also what kind of new papers is coming out. On top of that, I need to know how to manage the new era of technology, raising teenager with technology. So my main thing is every day I should ensure that I'm learning something. And the other things that I noticed, managing the time, it's not an easy task, and it's different from everyone's lives, yeah, and giving priority. So that's the key. So, for example, if I have a meeting, because I'm working at two places, so having meeting, one in the morning, one during middle of the day, bang, I cannot concentrate. I know if I need a 4 hours block of time to concentrate on something, this is not me. So I try to give priority and to see if it's possible to have to shift my meetings in a certain time that I have one day off to focus on my research. For example, to one block of time. If I need 4 hours time, I know it's 8 hours. It's not 4 hours. So that's how I try to manage time and priority in life and keep learning. These are the tasks. And I always keep telling people, not only female, male, both of them, we should not give up. As if we really want to achieve something, we should not give up. There should be a way to get to it. We might have a rest, break, but revisit what we wanted to achieve. I think that's very key. At the end of the day, if you look at 5 years, we see, I didn't think that would be challenging way, but I'm so pleased to see it's working out after several years. But that's the key that I noticed it was very useful for me. And going back to the talking about the balance of life that Devika lovely mentioned about that, I remember once one of the senior person who, gave us a talk, we asked her about the balance of life. And she mentioned like this. She said, imagine if you have something, we can't imagine life and, work life, personal life. It's just straight. This is not a balance. This is not, sometimes we need to bend it towards career. Sometimes we need to bend it toward personal life. As long as we don't bend too much to break.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Dr. Sidra as well, would you have any strategies that you would?
Yes, I would agree with Dr. Hamideh. Most of the things. The thing I would like to add in it is one should be emotionally strong, which is like build the same thing that we have to build a resilience, and we have to be mentally prepared that we will face rejection, we will face criticism, we will face unexpected circumstances. Things will never happen according to our plan, so be ready for it. And how can you make yourself ready for it is by surrounding yourself with the people who understand you, who are ready to listen to you. In my case, at times I don't need an advice, but I only need to share my story, and I need a person who can listen to my problem. And I need a good listener at times only. It can be your mother, it can be your supervisor or a mentor if you are lucky enough. And at times you can seek a professional help as well. In my case, during my PhD, one of the personal thing which I suffered a lot, and it was really hard for me to talk about it with my family, was about my miscarriage. And I seek a help from a professional psychiatrist, and she it was very effective for me. She just listened to my loss, she keep listening my loss, and I expressed myself openly. And ultimately, with the passage of time, I overcome with the loss. So I believe that having emotional strength, uh, developing with resilience, which will not come overnight, you will develop it again. You will develop it with patience and slowly. This is one of the strategy, and the other thing is, for me, at times motivational songs work for me. One of my favorite song is The Climb, which says like, which lyrics are like, every step I'm taking, every move I make feels lost with no direction, my faith is shaking. This happened to everyone, so I listen to this song, and keep motivational songs also helps you moving forward. And the other things is the women's which is inspired you, like I listen to the women who are in politics. One of the women from my country, like Benazir Bhutto, I used to listen to her speeches, how she was from a very privileged family, but still she suffered from being a public figure. She suffered from a lot of criticism. And currently, like, I love to listen to Jacinda Ardern, New Zealand Prime Minister, the way she is handling and playing a leadership role. It's really a a great mentorship for not only the migrant women, but also for the women who are within, for the local women. So it is one of like accepted thing, like all the women, either they are a migrant or they are local, they all face from like, they all suffer from some sort of not acceptable by some sort of, they suffer from challenges. So accept it, build the resilience, surround yourself among the people who are supportive for you, and keep trying, keep working hard, keep yourself improving every day. Know about your weaknesses and know about your strength. Uh, Turn your weaknesses into the strength, and keep moving.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. That was really inspirational. And before we go to the questions, the patternist questions, I just have one last question that I would like to ask. And it's basically, and I think we've covered a lot of it, but I think if you were to say one final thing in the webinar for women who are listening, what advice would you like to give to women of color and women from a migrant or refugee background who are thinking of pursuing a STEM career? I will start with you, Devika.
Okay. So I'll say three things, and one of it is my strategy. My strategy is ask for help. Always ask for help. It's very important, because when you ask for help, you will get it. Don't be shy to ask for help. There's so many initiatives in place in Australia, especially, to help and empower migrant women and women from refugee backgrounds. And this is something Sidra nicely brought up, the New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda. And in fact, just this morning, I read that she's, they've legalized, or they've for legal leave for mothers who've had miscarriages, giving them time to grieve over that process and not just come to work and pretend that everything is okay. There's actually now maternal leave for that. And these are small initiatives, but when you think of it in the grand scheme, it's really for the empowerment of women. So we still have a long way to go, but there are many initiatives in place to support us. Now, the one thing I'd like to leave the listeners is a story that my mom told me when I was a child. She told me, Devika, be the coffee bean. You have to be the coffee bean. And I asked her, I said, Mom, what do you mean? She said, take the carrot, carrots, take the eggs and take a coffee bean. Now imagine yourself as the carrot. You're quite hard when you start off, right? And then you go into boiling water. Boiling water is life. When you go into boiling water as a carrot, you come out really soft and fragile and weak. But let's take the egg. It goes into the boiling water really fragile and weak, but it comes out really hard and quite, in terms of emotions, it comes out quite cynical and negative. But take the coffee bean. it goes into the boiling water, what it actually does is it flavors the water. It gives part of itself to its environment, and it transforms itself into coffee, which is wonderful, and many of us love it. So she told me, you know, Devika, don't go into a situation weak and become hard and negative. Don't go into a situation hard and negative and come out broken like the egg, but go into a situation like the coffee bean. Be the coffee bean. So this is something I've practiced all my life. You know, no matter what happens to you in life, try to see the good in it. And I think all of us have talked about this. Try to see the good in it and try to turn that into something advantageous. And most importantly, don't forget your roots. I think President Roosevelt said this many, many years ago. He said, reach for the stars, but keep your feet firmly on the ground. And, you know, this is something I practice. I may be today in Australia as a Australian Indian, but I don't forget where I've come from, the values, the traditions. And I think that's what makes me unique. You know, my mix of my Indian, Australian accents and virtues. So I think that's what we don't want to lose sense of who we are. We want to bring our flavor in a sense, and all the stories and hard work and tears, laughter, joy, everything. We want to bring it, and we want to bring it to the story that we're becoming, you know. So I think I'll say that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And just quickly, just one thing that you would like to say to the women that are watching this before we move to questions. Dr. Yanni, Dr. Hamideh?
Yeah, I may start. So yeah, something echoes me a lot. Like so we should be really proud of our background and the fact that we have our own background, and now that we're in Australia, is definitely a good thing. Like so we know both, and we can choose to be the best of us, and it can only be a good thing. So don't be ashamed of it. And so science is about sharing knowledge with the world. So we welcome all the creative minds, regardless of where you come from or what culture you have. So don't be afraid. I would say to all the young girls, don't be afraid. If you work hard and do truthful and high quality science, your work will be honored, and you will be rewarded with a lot of satisfaction. So, I mean, like, I'm proud to say that I'm not, well, right now, I'm not doing my job just for the money. Well, it's a part of it, but, you know, not just for that. But it's a career that makes me very happy. And so if you have passion for STEM, go ahead.
Dr. Hamideh?
Yes, I mean, I think everyone said what I'm thinking of to say. I think everyone covered most of the thought that I had. But in terms of, because here is kind of women, STEM, migration, three different things. We're talking three, combination of three different aspects. So the first things that I would like to raise here is, as everyone mentioned, it's good to keep our root background and also combine it. It doesn't mean that, we learn something in our culture, everyone, that when we hear, we see something different. So we can choose which one is working better in this environment, and we can pass it to the next generation. And even I have some, some of my other friends also, they're interested. I mean, it was Iranian New Year this weekend, and I received lots of, Happy Nowruz messages from my colleague, because sometimes I invite everyone to come to our party as well, to our house. And so my point is, they're also interested to learn our background. They're exciting to hear it as well. And this is how my kids are enjoying to know that they have two different culture. And in terms of STEM, I'm just thinking of, it doesn't make difference to be a woman, men still, to be honest. I'm just still thinking that's a combination. It doesn't make difference, good for male or female. This is, our girls need to know about it. And in general, as a migrant, we always struggle to be connected with the people here. And sometimes the culture doesn't make sense. I mean, I'm here for many years. It is okay to ask. It is okay to ask our, colleague or friend to see, hey, I'm a bit confused. What is it? What was it? Or, it is absolutely okay to ask. And in general, as a woman, we always want to have a happy mask in our face and pretend everything is fine, which it's not true. So why don't we share if we have some challenges in our life? Why we always want to show very, very strong people that we are when it's not something okay. I give you one personal story here is I'm working at IBM and they are going to have some restructure and majority of them are being redundant from next week. So this is not an easy position to be. But I also work at the University of Melbourne, so I have to put 2 days working over there, finishing off the previous work, which more than 9 years, it's struggling. So I'm in a position, it's very hard emotionally, working, everything. So I brought, happily to brought up with the, head of school and said, I need leave. I'm overwhelmed. I need break. So I believe this is okay. So I'm not working. So that's not the normal situation. And we need to admit, sometimes life is tough. We better to be easy and look after ourselves. So I will be on leave for a couple of months, by the way. We're not finished next week.
Thank you so much for that. And I think, Dr. Sidra, before you start with what you'd like to let women know, your last advice, we have a few questions directed to you here from Motaha Saida. I don't think I said that right.
Motaha Sajad.
I apologize.
Yes, it's Mutahir Sajad.
Yes, would you like to, you can see the question. So I'll read it for everyone. We'll start with the first one. My question is that, what do you think Pakistani parents should do in terms of letting their daughters pursue their career and getting married? What should be their first priority?
All right, Mutahir is my nephew, and thanks Mutahir for being here. All right, so priorities vary from person to person. You can't, the things which fits for me is not necessarily fit in for someone else. So it's really hard to advise, or it's really, there's no particular recipe that this step is the first one and this step is the second one. So steps varies. It's really hard to advise someone that what should come first. It all depends your personal choices, your personal priorities. In my opinion, I would like to say that we should make our women, Pakistani women, financially independent to some extent.
Mm.
We should look for them like I will encourage parents to try to make them financially independent, and later on in their life, if they want, like if life there are unseen problems, or there can be like unpredictable things come up in the life, so they can handle their life by themselves. So my advice to the parents of the daughter is, try to build skills which make them financially independent, and the other thing is make them emotionally strong so that they can face rejection, criticism, and failures. That's my advice to their parents.
All right, thank you so much. And would anyone else like to add to the question?
May I add to that? Like, I'm a parent of a kid. I think it's a very, very important advice. So I like what Devika said earlier. I don't think there needs to be a particular order to whether I should study first or pursue a career first, or whether I should marry and have a family first. The order really doesn't matter. Like, I think it's more important to establish yourself and build yourself as an independent and a strong person, and then are very respectful. If a relationship comes later, it will only be a strong and mutually respected relationship. Like so it's, I think it's very important to recognize that and tell that to the young children.
Thank you for that. And I think this question again goes to you, Dr. Sidra, as well. What should a computer science student do in terms of studying and part-time working in Pakistan, while my parents don't let their children to work while studying, don't allow, I think that's what he was trying to say, don't allow for children to work while studying.
All right. So in Pakistani culture, this is a common thing. Parents are very concerned about their kids' education, and they don't want their kids while they are in university to work. And what's the reason that they don't want them to work is that their grades don't suffer. They want them to fully concentrate on their studies so that they can get the best grades, they can excel in their studies. So how can you convince your parents that you can manage both things? First, prove yourself that you are doing an excellent job in your studies. Then it will be very easy for you to convince your parents that you can work as well. And what should computer sciences students do? Like in current era, like you can work as a freelancer, you can work from home as well. So if you prove yourself that your studies are not being affected by doing a job, then you can easily convince your parents.
All right.
May I add something else as well?
Yes.
With Taher, I think you need to also learn how to team up and talk to auntie, talk to your parents, so you can get what you want.
Absolutely. Oh, that is wonderful. As I will just allow if there are any more questions, if anyone would like to know anything else, please feel free to edit on the chat. We have 10 minutes, so that is, get onto it if you'd like your questions answered. And I think I'll just open up to this to the panel. Is there anything in particular that you find inspirational? Dr. Sidra mentioned The Climb by Miley Cyrus. Dr. Devika, is there something that you like to read, books, I guess, like, is there anything that you find that particularly inspires you?
Yeah, I think, each of us have an inspiration. For me, my very first inspiration was Madame Marie Curie. I related to her because she discovered, radioactive elements, and one of them was radium. And I remember being a child, I used to have things that glow, earrings that would glow in the dark, or little stars on the sky, on your ceiling. So I think each one finds inspiration in different ways. So for me, when I realized that she works on chemical elements, I thought, oh, I want to work on chemical elements too. And she also discovered the X-ray. A lot of us take X-rays of our body parts that are broken sometimes. She also discovered that. So for me, something I learned that day was, you are not confined to one stream of education or a particular subject. For example, when I grew up in India, I was under the mind frame that if I did mathematics, then I had to become a mathematician. If I did physics, I had to become a physicist. But what I've learned, and what I tell my students that I mentor, is there's so much of cross-disciplinary nature and jobs. So in fact, I have a student here who does astrophysics with me, but she also studies law. So she's now going into space law. So she's trying to understand how, satellites in different countries launch satellites. And of course, this has to be governed by laws. And then there's always things that are falling towards the Earth, because many rockets are launched into space. And when something goes into space, it keeps spiraling in orbits, obviously. So you can, and it's something I think we don't get exposed to growing up in Asian countries. It's changing now, but it's something I wanted to say, that your inspiration is pretty much in your, it's limited by your creativity, like if you feel like, oh, I like computing, but I also like doing crime investigation, you could think of cybersecurity, and like astrophysics, for example, we are one of the biggest data science subjects in addition to genomics. We deal with terabytes of data. So if you're somebody who likes the space and the universe, but you like coding, then you can get into supercomputing data science in astronomy. So I find that very inspiring when I just think about the possibilities that are out there. But in addition to that, something I never forget every day of my life is I do sport every day. I just think sport and music and science, they have to go together. And I'm a bit like a child in the sense that I have my playtime every day. I know this is sometimes like, how do you do it? Sometimes I work until 2 a.m. because I don't finish my deadlines or I have so much on, but I don't forget to take that 45 minutes for myself, whether it's just playing a random tune and dancing or whether it's going out for a run. I make sure that 45 minutes of my day, no matter how intense my day is, it is for myself. It's meditation or yoga or sport. And I never did that in the past. I've only been doing that for the last 1 or 2 years. And I feel like it's just changed my life in terms of helping me reset my mind for the challenges. And when somebody told me that 2 years ago, in fact, it was one of my mentors, I said, oh, but I'm too busy. I can't, I don't have time to do 45 minutes of sport or, fun playtime. But now that I do the 45 minutes of me time, I actually have more time in my day to focus and more energy to focus on other things. So I think focus on yourself. It's maybe hopefully that's inspiring. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Definitely was. I think this is a question for Dr. Yanni, and I think we've got 5 minutes left, so I'm just going to quickly ask. So this is a question from Claire Momsen. I'm really bad with names, I'm sorry. So the question is, do universities do enough to support migrant or refugee women, especially on campus?
I back in my days, I didn't think it was that bad. So I can't. Well, it has been a while since since I studied, and but back then I didn't think that I was not treated fairly or anything. Maybe Devika can help me with this question. But yeah, here in university, I know there are lots of association from like specific for certain regions, and like the students form this sort of community, and then I think they go very well. And whenever they have problems, I think the school do pretty well in supporting them. But help me out here, Devika, maybe you know a bit more about.
So in Australia, for example, in New South Wales, which is the Sydney region, for example, the New South Wales Department of Education does a lot of initiatives, and they work with a lot of the universities individually. So I work at Macquarie University, and Macquarie University has a refugee and migrant women mentoring program. And this is done in partnership with the New South Wales Department of Education. So if you're from a culturally diverse background, you reach out to these people, and the information is on the website. You can easily reach out to them. And of course, this is about Macquarie University, but most universities, I believe, have something like this.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's something like that.
And what happens at Macquarie is, they reach out to the, it's called the refugee and migrant mentoring program people, and they kind of put you to a student or a academic, and so you do have that kind of support, and you also have scholarships. So these are dedicated scholarships for people from refugee backgrounds or migrant backgrounds, and also they're organized by countries. So like, for example, I know this because I have a student from Pakistan who's writing to me at the moment because they have a scholarship that is meant only for Pakistani students to study in Australia, for example. I was not aware of this until last week. So I think there is support, but also I think Sidro was saying, asking for professional help. Many of the universities actually have paid professional help. So let's imagine I'm having a difficult situation and I want to seek professional help. My university will actually pay for my professional help as long as I follow the formal channels. So I think, there's a lot that could be done, of course. There's always room for improvement. So there definitely is initiatives in place. And I think national wide, there's the NYSF, which is the National Youth Science Foundation. I think they can be reached online. So there are initiatives like that for people, but of course we can do better. But yeah.
All right, thank you so much. I would like to thank you, our panelists, for being here and all the information that you have shared with us. Dr. Sana, would you have anything else that you would like to add?
I don't know if you can see me or not because I had turned my video off. But no, that has been a fantastic panel, and I've just been getting inspired myself. And there are so many things, there were so many discussions that I could relate to a lot myself. And I'm sure it will be very helpful for women and men who were watching today and later on, because we will put the recording on our website as well. And it will be an ongoing resource for migrant and refugee women. And I would really encourage young men to listen to these discussions as well. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Yeah, and for organizing this. It's such a useful event. So thank you.
It will be. Thank you for your effort. I'm sure it's very valuable.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the effort you
everyone.
put.
Yeah, and don't forget the coffee bean. All right, see you later.